What if I told you one king was so bad that his own people invited a foreign prince to replace him? This is the story of John, King of England, and how he nearly tore his kingdom apart. But here's the real question. Was he actually a disaster, or did everything just go wrong at the worst possible time? First, let's clear up a popular myth. You might have heard that King John was so terrible that no future monarch ever used his name again. It sounds dramatic, but it's not true. Several princes were named John, and one even came close to ruling. In medieval times, becoming king wasn't about having a popular name. It was about surviving long enough to wear the crown. John became king in 1199 after the death of his older brother, Richard I of England. Richard was everything a medieval king was supposed to be: brave, legendary, and constantly at war. John, on the other hand, had already built a reputation for betrayal. While Richard was away on crusade, John tried to undermine him, and when Richard was captured, John even worked with Philip II of France to keep him imprisoned. Not exactly the kind of loyalty you want in a future king. When John finally took the throne, he inherited more than just England. He also controlled vast lands in France. But there was a problem. His nephew, Arthur of Brittany, had a strong claim to those territories. Instead of negotiating, John chose conflict. War broke out, and to strengthen his position, John made a bold political move. He married Isabella of Angoulême. The move secured valuable land, but it came with a scandal. Isabella was already engaged to another noble, who appealed to the French king. Suddenly, John wasn't just dealing with a rival. He was facing a full-scale war with France. This is where things began to fall apart. John alienated his nobles, ignored their advice, and treated them with open contempt. Then his nephew Arthur, who had been captured, mysteriously disappeared. Many believe John had him killed. Whether true or not, the damage was done, trust collapsed, and support vanished. By 1204, John had lost most of his French territories, including Normandy. It was a crushing defeat that left his reputation in ruins. Back in England, John faced another crisis: money. Years of war and ransom payments had drained the kingdom. Instead of rebuilding trust, John squeezed his people harder. He imposed heavy taxes, demanded massive fines, and even loyal nobles were forced to pay just to keep their lands or marry. His rule became less about leadership and more about control through fear. And because he had once betrayed his own brother, John believed everyone else was plotting against him too. Then, as if things weren't bad enough, he picked a fight with the church. In 1208, John clashed with Pope Innocent III over who should become Archbishop of Canterbury. The result was explosive. John was excommunicated. Churches were shut down, religious life was disrupted, and the people blamed him. Eventually, he backed down and submitted to the Pope, but by then, his reputation was beyond repair. By 1214, John made one last attempt to reclaim his lost power through war. His nobles refused to support him. That refusal turned into rebellion. Outnumbered and under pressure, John was forced to sign the Magna Carta. Today, it's seen as a cornerstone of freedom and the rule of law, but at the time, it was simply the barons forcing the king to limit his power. John agreed, but almost immediately tried to undo it and restart the war. Civil war erupted. The rebels went even further, inviting Louis VIII of France to take the English throne. Foreign forces invaded, rebellion spread, and the kingdom began to collapse. John was losing everything. And then, in 1216, it all came to an abrupt end. John died, just like that. His young son, Henry III of England, became king, and almost immediately, the situation began to stabilize. The rebellion faded, peace returned, and a revised version of Magna Carta was accepted. So what does that tell us? John did inherit serious problems: financial strain, unstable lands, and powerful enemies. But again and again, he made those problems worse. He alienated his allies, ruled through fear, and failed to inspire loyalty when he needed it most. In the end, his reign collapsed under the weight of his own decisions. And maybe the most telling detail of all is this: the moment he was gone, everything started to get better.